Hi everybody, Texas Sun Fun here. Today we're going to build an aluminum foundry so that way I can melt all the aluminum cans that I've been collecting for quite a while. This bucket here is going to be the main foundry portion, and it's 13 inches from one side to the other in diameter. The things that we're going to need for today's project are a 5-gallon bucket for mixing stuff. I have some perlite here, which I buy in bulk for my garden at a local feed store. I've got a bag of Portland cement. Note this is not Quikrete, it's actually Portland cement. I've got some all-purpose play sand that I bought at a big box store. This is fire clay. This particular brand is called Green Stripe. I bought a 10-pound bag on eBay for probably about 20 bucks or so. I've got a bucket here that I'm going to use for measuring out all of the stuff that you saw earlier. A couple of the things that we're going to be using, I've got a 1-inch by 12-inch long piece of black pipe. I've got a 1/2-inch by 2.5-inch black steel pipe nipple, a 3/4 to 1/2 black reducer coupling, a couple of 2x4 bolt gate holders that I'll be using as handles, 8 bolts, 16 nuts, 8 washers, just a couple of spare blocks of wood that I'll show you what to do with later on. This right here is a piece of 8-inch diameter stovepipe, couple of jugs of water to mix stuff up, and then just some of the tools that I'm going to need in order to finish this particular project. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and drill the hole for my pipe to add oxygen to the burning container. Now, the bottom 2.5 inches of the refractory are going to have the cement, so I want to put the middle of the pipe, remember it's a 1-inch pipe, and I want that right at about 3.5 inches, so I'm going to go ahead and make my mark here. Put it right about there. In order to make it a little easier on myself, I'm going to go ahead and take my scratch awl and put a little dimple there. That way my drill bit won't walk on me. So now I've got a little bit of a teeny dimple, so that way when I actually start to drill, it won't walk away. Alright, so now I've got my starter hole drilled. Drill a little larger hole here. As you can see, it didn't take a whole lot. And now I'm going to go ahead and drill my final size hole. So now I've got the hole where my exhaust pipe is going to come out. It's a little bit too big, but that's okay. That's not a problem at all. Now I'm going to go ahead and drill out the bottom of my drain hole. Through the magic of TV, I've drilled out the drain hole, and you guys didn't have to sit there and watch it. Now what I'm going to be doing is taking the 1/2-inch by 2.5-inch black steel nipple, as well as the 3/4 to 1/2 reducer coupling, and I'm going to go ahead and thread those together. Now this is going to be where any molten metal will drain out in the event that there's any kind of a spill. And I don't want that hole getting blocked up when I pour the concrete mix in there, so I'm just going to take a piece of scrap here and screw that into the iron pipe, so that way when I'm pouring my concrete, nothing gets inside there. and it'll just sit inside there like such. Okay, the mixture that I'll be using takes 1.5 parts of the perlite. And what I'm going to do here is go ahead and get about 3/4 of this container and fill it with the perlite. Yeah, it's about 3/4 of a container there. I'm going to go ahead and pour that into my bucket. It also requires 1.5 parts of the Portland cement. So I'll go ahead and get that. Mix the 1.5 parts, which is an approximation, it doesn't have to be exact. Mix that Portland cement in there. Then I'm going to take 2 parts of the regular silicone play sand. And I'll just kind of tamp it down like that. That's about 2 parts of the play sand. Remember, all of this is done by volume, not by weight. I'm going to go ahead and take that. And then I'm going to give it a good stir here to mix it all up. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the fire clay. Now the fire clay is also 2 parts. So the recipe is 1.5 parts of the perlite, 1.5 parts of the Portland cement, 2 parts of the play sand, and 2 parts of the fire clay. Add the fire clay in here. And I'm going to go ahead and start wetting it down. I got a piece of rebar here that I'm using to stir it all up. Alrighty, I went and got my cement mixer here so that way I can go ahead and start mixing this up. I'm running at a super slow speed, that way I don't splash it up all over everywhere. You can do it however you'd like, but it's no fun cleaning it up. Add a little more. Okay, it's got about the consistency of whipped cream at this point, as you can see. Make sure you guys can actually see that. See how the peaks form when I actually pull that out. You get a nice little thing. I think we need it just a little bit wetter, so I'm going to add a little more water, just a touch. And mix it up again. Alright, looks like we've got a pretty good mixture there now. So I'm going to go ahead and prepare it to start pouring inside of our foundry. As you can see, I've got my fitting threaded in there. So now I'm going to begin to go ahead and put the mixture that I just made in the last step inside the bottom here. And I'm just going to go ahead and trowel it in, make myself a nice good base. Now we want this to be about 2.5 inches thick. And in fact, you want all of your sides to be about 2.5 inches thick because that will stop the heat from getting through the bucket. Go ahead and spread it down here a little bit where I've got the hole for my inlet. It looks like I'm going to need to make a couple more batches of this to get this all complete. I'm going to spread it around a little bit and even it out. And we're going to go ahead and lay our air inlet pipe in there at this point. Now we want about 2.5 inches of that pipe inside, because that's how wide our walls are going to be. Okay, I've went ahead and made another batch of the fireproof cement there, and now I'm going to put in these wood blocks. They are, I believe, what is called a plinth. I think that that's the term that's officially used, and basically what they're used for is in the event that something happens on the crucible, that the cement will act, or that the melted metal actually will run down these, as opposed to making a mess inside your actual refractory or your foundry. So now I'm going to take my stovepipe over here, form this together. This goes together pretty easily. Just shove it in here like that and it should link together. Give it a little bit of a bend on that seam and it'll link together. There we go. Looks like my plinths are too long, so I'm going to go ahead and remove those, cut them, and I will be right back. Okay, as you can see, I've recut my plinths to a little bit smaller length. Originally I had them 4 inches, now I've cut them down to 2 inches. Then I went ahead and put in a little bit more of the cement mixture here in the bottom and just kind of cleaned everything up a little bit, so that way you guys didn't have to watch that. I'm going to go ahead and take my 8-inch stovepipe here and kind of center it inside the bucket. And then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go ahead and start adding more of this all the way around the stovepipe.
And the stovepipe will actually act as my form. So that way I end up with holes on the lid where
well, it's not perfect, but I think it'll be serviceable. Alrighty, now we're going to be making the top for the foundry, and as you can see, I've got a 5-gallon bucket upside down on the lid. I'm going to go ahead and drill out a pilot hole for myself to get started. And I'm going to go ahead and use my handy dandy jigsaw here to go ahead and cut out the bottom of this bucket. Never start using it. Now we have a bottomless bucket. I'm going to go ahead and start by adding a little bit to the bottom here. Probably should have attached the lid to the bucket before I started this. It was not good thinking on my part, however. We'll deal with it. We'll go with it. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and assemble the handle for the lid of our refractory. So we're going to go ahead and run a bolt through, throw a washer on there, and then we're going to thread one of the nuts all the way up to that center point. And what that'll do is that'll keep the washer from actually going down to the very bottom. Then we'll go ahead and thread another nut at the very bottom, just as a holding point. And we're going to go ahead and do that with all 8 of our bolts, 4 on each handle, and we'll go ahead and get the handles put in place. And I'll go ahead and stop this while I'm busy putting this all together. Alrighty. Now I've went ahead and put my handles together here. As you can see, those are just going to rest right on the top. And I actually went in and added a piece of 3 or 4 inch drain pipe, so that way I'll have a way to load the aluminum cans and stuff like that into the actual crucible itself. So now I'm just going to go ahead and set these into place. Alright, got our lid handles on there. Add a little bit more cement here. Will it work? I don't know. But we're going to try it out. Alright, let's go ahead and pull our handles up here a little bit. Actually, I probably should have waited to stick those handles in until I had all this down there, but I didn't think about that. Now I should be able to just stick my handle right down inside. Probably not the prettiest Foundry lid on the planet, but I think it'll be serviceable once it works. So now we just let it sit there for about 4 days, and I'll be back in about 4 days when it's dry, and we'll try it out.